Good morning. This is the podcast Ancient Rome Today. In previous episodes, we talked about foods, products, and various aspects of food culture. In today's episode, and several upcoming ones, we'll focus on the daily lives of Romans. Specifically, today, we'll talk about thermal baths. Thermal complexes exist today in various countries around the world. For example, in Italy, there are famous thermal baths in Urbano, Saturnia, Porretta, and many other Italian cities. In Europe, the most famous thermal baths are in Budapest, Hungary. There are also well-known thermal baths in Pamukkale, Turkey, the Blue Lagoon, in Iceland, and so on. But why do people visit thermal baths today? The main reasons include wellness and relaxation. Since thermal springs have healing power, people go there to enhance their overall health state, especially the musculoskeletal system. At this point, there is a question. Did the Romans go to thermal baths for the same reasons? The answer is yes and no at the same time. First and foremost, the baths were a place where people went to take a shower, as ancient homes didn't have bathrooms and sinks like we have today. Thermal structures were also a social hub, where people discussed the latest news and gossip, as well as relaxed. In a nutshell, the Roman baths were a fully fledged social institution, a sort of multi-purpose recreational center that comprised not only pools and gyms, but also libraries, art galleries, small theaters, inns, and shops. For Romans, visiting baths was a sort of ritual that required a great deal of time. The baths were also seen as a very democratic space, since they were accessible to people of all social classes, the poor, the rich, and slaves. Everyone could enter. The ancient Romans were, in fact, the first to develop the thermal culture. Starting in the 2nd century BC, they started to build so-called thermae, or balneae. Every major city of the empire had at least one bath complex. The largest and most famous ones that you can see and visit today are the baths of Caracalla and the baths of Diocletian. The grandeur of the baths of Caracalla amazes visitors. They are located not far from the Colosseum. In summer, this place hosts many concerts and evening events. When it gets dark, the magnificent lighting switches on, which creates the atmosphere that lets you travel back in time. The other famous bath complex is the Baths of Diocletian Museum, located in front of the Termini train station. Despite its favorable geographical location, this museum is not so popular, unfortunately. The Baths of Diocletian Museum houses many archaeological findings in the garden and internal areas. It also has a large building containing several bathrooms accessible to visitors. So let's look at the rooms that were typically present in most bath complexes of that time. The Caldarium. The room is intended for immersions in hot water. It was further heated by a floor system powered by a furnace. The Frigidarium. This was a room with low-temperature baths, which were usually covered. The Tepidarium. The room was heated with warm air to prepare the body for the temperature change. If you think that heated floors are a modern invention, it's not so. Heated floor models were already created and implemented in ancient Rome. The Sudatorium, the room with extremely high temperatures, very similar to modern saunas and hammams. With the fall of the empire and the rise of Christianity, the view of the body underwent significant changes. Nudity was seen as shameful. Thus, from the 6th century onwards, baths were used very little and were completely abandoned later. Bath culture, as it was in imperial Rome, only became popular again, let's say, in the 20th century. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you soon.